All right, today I have a very important video for all of you at home. It's perhaps one of the most important videos I've ever made on this channel, and I urge you to watch the video in its entirety if you have the time to do so, and I urge you also to share it with a friend if you think they would find it informative or interesting. Because I think this supersedes anything that I've done in terms of like PvP vendors, is that it affects the game as a whole, and it's something that we need to be talking about as a community. Let's get into it. I'm a little nervous making this video, I'm going to be honest, because I don't want to upset anyone, and I have to say it right now. Please do not use this video to harbor hate towards the development team. I have no ill will. I'm just somebody that's been playing this game for 15 years, and I'm starting to realize that I want to start making videos about stuff that I care about, the things that are actually important to me as a player. That's what I'm passionate about. That's what I like making videos on. So that's why I'm making it. But please don't use this as a tool to, start any problems, because that's not what I'm trying to do. And I hope that you can understand that and respect that. I'm just trying to get positive change, and that's why we are doing these types of videos. With that being said, let's talk about balancing really quickly. For those of you that are wondering, is Blizzard going to pull it off? There's a lot of conversation. Can they balance covenants? And just newsflash, guys, they are never going to balance covenants, classes. It just doesn't exist. I mean, that's been around in the game forever. Like, World of Warcraft is an MMO with tons of different variables. It's never going to be balanced. And even more so over the past recent expansions with like Legion, BFA, and now Shadowlands, because of these borrowed powered systems, they make it extra hard to kind of keep everything in check. It's just gotten exponentially worse over time. And that's where we're going to be talking about, because these borrowed powered systems, they require a ton of time to properly implement. They're not easy to get up and running. And the issue with these is that these systems, they don't stay around past one expansion, right? Like they have to reinvent the wheel every time they try to do these. You had it in Legion, BFA, and now you're getting it in Shadowlands. And the problem with these systems is that they take the attention away from the classes themselves, right? Blizzard has to focus so much time on balancing legendaries and artifact weapons from Legion, or Azerite traits, essences, and corruptions, that they don't get the time to correct all the fundamental problems with certain classes. A great example is the class that many of you hate, and that's the Demon Hunter. Batman, the class was literally created. I remember being at BlizzCon, and there was a little thing where they were showing the Demon Hunter and announcing it, and they were saying like easy to play or great for beginner players. Now, I'm sure that was the intention, but it's also because they just used these borrowed powered systems to kind of complete the class, where other classes had tons of time to kind of flesh out all of the issues and have a more solid rotation. And in Legion, they kind of revamped a lot of classes, and some of those classes, again, that were revamped, it's not just the Demon Hunter, relied on these systems to feel complete, leaving them in BFA to feel very bad and just incomplete. And the Windwalker monk and the monk class in general is an example of that. We're going to break those down. But in BFA, we had Azerite traits, essences, and corruptions. And then going into Shadowlands, we have even more borrowed powered systems with covenants, soulbinds, conduits, and legendaries. And that's going to take away the attention from the classes. Now, the problem with this is that Blizzard is very slow to correct some of these class issues, right? There's this horrible narrative that Blizzard is out of touch with the community. The developers have no idea what they're doing. That's what people are talking about. But where does this come from? Why is this made up? Is this not real? Is this just hate towards Blizzard? Or are there reasons that the community is creating this narrative and Blizzard's doing nothing really to address it? So let's go into that. So first thing that we're going to look at here, the Monk Shadowlands feedback forums. So a while ago, I made a video, I think it was 2 videos ago, where I discussed solutions to the PvP vendors, and Blizzard kind of responded on Twitter. The Leeds reward designer said that they don't have time to watch videos and they would prefer written summaries. So then I went ahead and said, all right, guys, I want you all to go to the forums and post your feedback there, because that's where they are wanting the feedback to be posted. That's where they're looking. That's what they're checking. So, okay. This is the Monk feedback forum, and this was created for all classes on April 9th, and it states here, in this thread, we're discussing Monk class changes coming in Shadowlands. This initial post will be updated periodically throughout the Shadowlands test. Please check back here for information about further updates to this class as they are made. Okay? The top reply to this comment is literally, come on, man. It takes 20 seconds to think of something to make Mystery for good. Please say something. And that is the key point of this thread. Blizzard didn't respond to all of the feedback here. And these are like thesis papers. I mean, some of these, like, they're insane. Like, I read through some of these and they're so in depth of all of the bugs with the class and issues with the class. And Blizzard finally responded 4 months later. So some classes got responses right away, and some classes got responses 4 months later. Now, Blizzard, what they don't do, what they need to start doing, and we're going to get to this later, I have a lot of examples of this, they need to start just saying, thanks for your feedback. Wow, you guys are killing it with the feedback. Like, we're taking all of this into consideration. Keep it coming, or just a simple line. But they finally got changes after 4 months. This is, by the way, this is like a month and a half before the expansion even launches when they got their first reply. And then if you go down to the bottom here, you can see all of the bugs that these are all of the bugs that still exist with the monk class today. These are all of them. I mean, look how many they are. Look at all of the bugs, conduit issues, legendary bug issues, again, borrowed powered systems, and then just class issues, spell and talent bug issues that still exist in the game. And if you go to the very bottom, even when they address it here today, this morning, 15 minutes ago, they put out a post saying that they've corrected some of the issues, they fixed a couple bugs, work in progress, aware of the balance concerns at Windwalker monks about dual wield, two-handed weapons, we're considering different options. This is what they need to do all of the time on a bi-weekly basis or on a monthly basis. There's no reason that it takes 4 months for a game that you pay $15 a month for. There's no reason that it takes 4 months to respond one time. 4 months, 120 days to get a response about all of the feedback. I mean, if you want people to provide written feedback, you need to incentivize it, right? I mean, here's another post that I found. I was just stumbling across the forums, and you can see here that players are saying, Blizzard, we know you love this game as much as your players, so they're trying to be nice. Talk to your players. That's all we're asking for. If it's too late to brainstorm ideas with your player base, that's all right, but at least an open dialogue. That is one thing that they need to learn. I know Blizzard has this philosophy where they like to not discuss things until they have like an idea in mind, or they don't like to release anything until it's kind of polished or completed. That's fine when you're regularly updating the game. But when it takes you 4 months and you haven't said anything, you need to say something. That policy doesn't work when it takes you 4 months to not even acknowledge the feedback. And to me, it's such an issue. I mean, even here, for example, there is a podcast here where Sloot Bag, if you want to check that out, I'll have a link to the info box, or a link to in the info box below if you want to check this video out for yourself. They're essentially saying, this guy Abolito here, he was saying during this podcast that he's been doing bug fixes and Q&A testing for this, for Shadowlands, for the monk class for months, for Mistweavers for months, and he hasn't heard anything. And they were just saying that if all they got was just feedback that they are reading through these responses and these forum posts, that they'd feel much better about it, right? Whether they're working on something or they're not, just a response is important. Now, what I want to talk about now is what's the big deal with monks, for example, right? We mentioned it earlier that borrowed powered systems really affect Blizzard's ability to balance the game. It affects their ability to correct a lot of the underlying issues with the classes because they have to spend so much time on these like covenants and these soulbinds and these conduits and these legendaries and these azurite traits, these essences, these corruptions. That's where all of the tuning goes. It doesn't go towards the classes, and this is a very amazing screenshot here that he put up. And you can see that this is, if you look here, this is Mistweaver Monk performance over the last 6 raid tiers, because there's so many issues with the class. It doesn't bring anything valuable. It has mana issues. There's like bugs with the class. There's so many fundamental problems with the class, and it stayed at the bottom by a considerable amount. I mean, I'm not even talking between like Holy Paladin and Resto Druid. We're talking about Monk being at the very bottom, except in Battle for the Zara lore, where they did pretty, I wouldn't say pretty well. They did okay, but they don't bring the utility that a lot of these other classes bring. There's like 0 damage reduction. If you look at, Restoration Shaman being on par with them here, they bring way more utility to the raid than Mistweaver Monks do. So they're just like the bottom of the barrel healer. And the same exists for Windwalker monks. You saw all of those bugs that I just showed you, and I'm going to show you the Wowhead meters here. This is Windwalker monk performance. You can see here it's at the very bottom for Nyalotha. If I go to Eternal Palace, it's also going to be at the very bottom for an entire expansion. If I go to Battle for the Zara Lore, I'm sure it's at the bottom of the barrel for the entire expansion. And this doesn't just exist in PvE. The same goes for PvP, right? In PvP, you have the same issues with a lot of classes where certain specs stay at the top and don't get addressed, and certain specs stay at the very bottom and stay bad for an entire expansion. Like 2 years, there's not any tuning that we're gonna do to address these issues. So here we go. So this is Battle for Azeroth Season 4, 3v3 arena representation, spec representation above 2200. So this is a good just little middle gauging point to see like what specs are doing well and what specs you're just not seeing. And you can see here that this was the longest season I think in WoW's history, if I'm not mistaken. It was about it's going to be about 9 months. And you can see that the Destruction Warlock for months was unchecked as just the most ridiculous class I think we've ever seen in WoW's history. I mean, there's probably some examples of other classes that got close, but I would argue that BFA Warlock was just created so many problems in PvP, and it stayed unchecked for months, and it's still been unchecked. The only reason why it comes down here is that Rogue Mage kind of starts to come up, and then you also have, Fire Mage coming up, so you have Mage Lock, and then you have Rogue Mage, and then all these classes kind of just play together, and they're just miles ahead better than all the other classes. But during this entire time, we didn't see any patch notes that really addressed the Warlock problem until like the very end, and there were such minor tunings that they didn't really do anything. And if they had been regular tunings and not focused on Azerite traits, essences, or corruptions, then we'd probably have a much more balanced game for both PvE and PvP. Okay, but there are also some specs that just stay bad for the entire expansion. So when they talk about meaningful choice of your covenants, that's not really the meaningful choice, because at the end of the day, you can kind of just switch those around. Like it's a 2-week little question they're talking about. People are saying pull the ripcord. I feel like the more important fundamental problems are the classes. Like the fact that Marksmanship Hunter has stayed bad. So if you see here on the screen, you can see that at 0% representation is the Marksmanship Hunter. And this goes all the way to the end here, all the way throughout the entire season. I can move my camera here for you if you'd like. All the way till the end, you have Marksmanship Hunter at the very bottom. And the classes that it's associated with are tank classes, tank specs, Protection Warrior, Blood DK. You also have Affliction Warlock that stayed bad for the entire expansion. Brewmaster Monk and Vengeance Demon Hunter. That's not how it should be. If you're not familiar with PvP, no DPS spec should be that low in comparison to tank specs. Now you do have like randomly like Prot Paladin that'll come out, but it actually has high representation, like Fury Warrior, and then even an Enhancement Shaman. Like an Enhancement Shaman stayed bad for a long time. I mean, it's where is it? It's like right here at 0.5%. Again, it's not like they didn't know about these issues, right? Because I'm sure Blizzard has these statistics. If ArenaMate has these statistics, I'm sure Blizzard has these statistics, right? Some way. But again, they want written feedback, and maybe they want to hear it from the community. So let's talk about written feedback. Let's see if anyone complained about these problems on the forums. Well, if we go to the forums here, you can clearly see nerf Destro, Destro nerf, so Destro Warlocks, getting Destro nerfed, Destro Fire is insane, so Destro nerfs, is there still a possibility or question mark? Destro fixes required, nerf Destro, fixed Destro. I mean, it gets to a place where it's like, I don't even understand. Everything is there in front of you. How do you incentivize written feedback when you're not even responding to any of it? There's no responses. There's no, hey, we've heard you. Now, what we used to get these Q&As like other games were, and they're frequent in the beginning of the expansion. We're going to talk about that. So we used to get some, like responses to the issues. And you can see here that this, by the way, I want to point this out. This isn't, again, I'm not poking any fun. I'm sure they're aware of this. you don't want this dislike ratio on your Q&A videos. I mean, it doesn't look good just from a PR standpoint. Like, this doesn't really look good. It just doesn't. When you have that many dislikes to likes, I mean, of course, there are going to be some people that are negative, and there was probably some, you had the Diablo Immortal thing happening somewhat at the same time, but this started way before Diablo Immortal. And you can even see here that one of the first questions in this Q&A is, you promised us better communication. But this was back in 2018. December 14th, 2018. Now, if you look at the beginning of the expansion, people weren't that unhappy about, we were getting regular Q&As. It was the start of the expansion. These borrowed powered systems hadn't really bled out the game too much yet. But as the expansion went on, and we were getting them from March, then April, and then June, and then July, all in 2018, mind you, August, we get to December, but then something happens around here where it gets really bad, right? It gets really bad. Players are frustrated. They want better communication. What's going on? There's all these issues with the game, and it's very apparent that these issues are a result of all of these systems that they've been trying to balance. And they're not fixing the issues with the classes and just game design. They're just focused on making these systems work, which just, they don't work. They don't work. Anyway, so then we can go forward now. We can go forward, and then in March, we got our last official Q&A. And this was the last time, March 2019, not March 2020. This is March 2019, and this was our last Q&A. And then we actually got a kind of developer update, and I prefer this style, right? So they don't have to do the Q&As. This is in June of 2019, where Ian came out and he actually started talking about all of the issues with the game. We're sorry about this. We messed up on this. This wasn't done correctly. And if had this been something that was more regularly done, I think, responding to some of the complaints that were really plaguing the game, I think they'd get better player response, right? People would be happier. And it shows right here, for example. He responds to a lot of the questions here, and he says that we're sorry and that we're working better on stuff, and it was received well. It was received well. People enjoyed it. And then we get to this. So we had one in June, and then we have one in October. So quite some time to October 2019. Okay. And this one addressed none of the issues. It was just letting you know what's coming in the patch. So our official last feedback from Blizzard was back in June of 2019. And then we have October, and that's it. That was the last time we had actually received any feedback from Blizzard. Now you also have, your blue post notes, but I want to show you now how much of an issue these borrowed powered systems have on the game. You can see here that when the game was so stale and there were still these issues. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, well, after the last patch, they're working on the next expansion. I'm sorry. That is an outrageous excuse. You still need to worry about your current product. You still need to make your current customers happy so they stay around for the next expansion, right? You want to ensure that your current product looks good so that the next one is promising, right? You don't want to have this narrative that, well, BFA sucked, so let's fix it in the next one, because that's typically what WoW goes for. But if they were better about responding to feedback and just doing changes at all with the actual classes, you'd have less work going into the next expansion, but they don't. Instead, they have to focus on nerfing essences, corruptions, and you can see here that there's tons of tunings that are all based on these borrowed powered systems. You can see here, like, oh, wait a minute, July 9th, class changes. Nope, these aren't class changes. The mana cost of Shadowbolt has been reduced by 25%. This is to help Warlocks stop running out of mana because of the high haste levels. The high haste levels due to expedience. So that is an after effect of corruptions. They're going essentially, which it's insane to imagine that classes run out of mana nowadays in modern day WoW because they're casting so many spells. This isn't classic WoW. You'd see it for Affliction. You see it for Destruction Warlock. The only time that we actually got changes to classes, and they were very minor, I think was back in February. If I go all the way down here, I had already looked through this. We got some changes to Resto Druids. There was some Marksmanship Hunter buffs, some Frost Mage buffs, some Windwalker buffs, 3%, 5%. And these would be great. These are actually fun. I get it. You can't fundamentally redesign a class mid-expansion. I'm not naive to that. But you could do minor tunings every month. and you could respond, have an intern do it, right? Like you could literally have an intern write up a little response to some of the issues with the game. Hey, we know that these classes are underperforming. Have that get checked by a higher up, and then post it just to have constant communication between you and your community, because that is one of the major problems. Now, I actually want to end the video with this, and I thought this was a great way to end the video. This was the April 2020 April Fool's Blue Post. If you're not familiar with what this is, essentially Blizzard every April 1st, every April Fool's Day, releases a Blue Post where they talk about like all these little funny jokes in relationship to like some classes. You can see here they have like little funny things about like microtransactions and whatever, essences, and they're essentially just like funny jokes. World Vein now hurts your ears 20% less, right? If you look at Death Knight, Death Grip never really did what it says and caused death rather than mere inconvenience to the target. So Death Grip has been renamed Tug Throat, right? They're just little jokes here. It'd been so long since we had seen anything, and I remember Shamans in particular were in the worst spot. Like they weren't good in anything. Like Enhance was bad, Elemental was bad, they were barely good in PvP. I mean, Enhance has been horrible in PvP for so long, but all of those classes were just, specs were just awful. And they had the, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, but they had the audacity to write up a little funny thing. And they had the time to do all of this. But then if you go down to Shaman, they literally said, no adjustments needed. And I just, I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, what, like, that's like a horrible PR move, man. Like, you're really gonna take the time to do this when the state of the game was at an all-time low, and then you're gonna say no adjustments needed? I mean, that's just wrong, man. I mean, I know for a lot of other classes it's probably funny, but I mean, come on. So I wanted to show you guys all of this and kind of break everything down, and not just show you like the broken abilities that are one-shotting people in the game, but kind of show you that this has been a problem for a really long time. And the point of this video is not to say that it's a doomsday video. I'm super excited for Shadowlands. I can't wait to play Shadowlands. There's a lot of good things about the game that I'm excited about. PvP vendors, just new content in general. I love how the transmogs look. Like the appearances for a lot of the armor sets look great. The zones, I did some leveling. It's fun. The dungeons feel fun. The raids look cool. Like everything's going to be fun. But I really want, at least at the bare minimum, Blizzard to do a better job at replying to feedback. We go above and beyond as a community to help this game get better. And I am not trying to be mean when I say this, but we need to hold them more accountable, and they need to do a better job. I mean, I know at BlizzCon, they had that little thing where they said they were going to do a better job, and I'm sure that was in response to all the other stuff that was going on, the bad press. But come on, man. Like, this meaningful choice thing. I mean, honestly, like I said earlier, the real meaningful choice is picking your class, because you can pick the wrong one, and at the rate at which we get changes in this game, it can end up in the dumpster. It can absolutely end up in the dumpster for a long time. And if you want to play this game somewhat competitive, you better pick the right class, or good luck. Anyways, I just wanted to share that all with you guys today. I hope you found the video helpful or informative. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your frustrations. Share this video with somebody that you think would enjoy it or find it useful or informative. I really appreciate you guys' time. Thanks to all the new subscribers, and I'll see you guys in the next one.